Hello, folks.
Hi there!
It's another episode of Würfelcast, episode 41.
Hurrah!
Topic of the day, top 10 snakes and ladders. And
It's very exciting.
just spoilers, it's not going to be about snakes and ladders variations, game variations or something like that. It's going to be
Yeah, that
something
wouldn't
else.
be a very good list.
Yeah. It's going to be about games that we used to like and we like less, and games that we didn't like that much and they kind of grew on us. So,
That's right.
but we'll get back to that topic. And as always, we start with the recent plays and with some with a magical click. I'm gonna open Board Game Geek.
There we are.
It's going to help us identify the culprits from recent plays. And the culprits are the ones that we have played recently. One pick each, as always. So, Kyle, why don't you start?
Oh, right. So the game I'm talking about is brand new. This is Terraforming Mars, the Ares Expedition. Not to be confused with Ares Project.
Did you get it already?
Yes, I do have it.
Wow, that's fast. I don't have it yet.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. I mean, I think it was probably mostly produced when they did their Kickstarter. So this is a card game version of Terraforming Mars, which I'll acknowledge was largely a card game to begin with. In this one, though, the board element has been almost entirely removed. The game theme is the same. You're still increasing the 3 global parameters. You're doing so by playing cards mostly. But what's different here, well, a couple of things. The big difference is that it's kind of like a combination of Terraforming Mars and Race for the Galaxy. So in Race for the Galaxy, you'll remember everybody was selecting an action, and then that action would be performed by everybody, but the person who selected it would get some sort of a bonus. Well, that's here. And so there are 5 different actions that you can select, and those are the only phases that happen that turn. One action allows you to play a green card with a discount. One action allows you to play 1 or 2 red or blue cards or draw a card. There's some combination in there. One action allows you to activate all of your actions on various cards, or those sort of general project actions. One of them allows you to do your production. You don't produce every round. And then the last one allows you to draw some cards. So some combination of those will be chosen by the players. That's what you do. And you keep going until the global parameters are reached. It's really, that's kind of the same thing. A couple of other differences, though. The card quality is better. The cards feel a little bit different. I don't know, they have a different finish on them. The artwork is much better. And the game is a little bit shorter just because there's not the whole sort of 2 actions per turn. I take one and then I pass on my second one, or do I take 2? And we don't have sort of that board placement and trying to get different bonuses and score things by being next to each other. That element has been removed. I like it. If you don't like Terraforming Mars, I don't know that it will change your mind. But if you liked the concept of Race for the Galaxy but didn't like all the symbols, this one might actually improve your opinion of it. It really is generally just a marriage of those two, and it does so with text instead of hundreds and hundreds of obscure symbols that you have to remember. So I mean, it's definitely an improvement on that system. I like it. I had a good time with it. I'm looking forward to trying it again. I don't know if it will replace full flavor Terraforming Mars, mostly because that one has some expansions that I enjoy and has some different things to think about that I enjoy, and I enjoy the table presence. But if I want the full, sort of almost the full experience in maybe about half the time, this is a good one to go to.
Yeah, this is the one that I backed as well. So I was curious if you already got your copy or you got it from Target, because they launched the launched the Target exclusive kind of thing, but it's an inferior copy, kind of like they had some extras. So the retail copy for Target, it's going to be without the like recessed boards, and like maybe the card quality will be the same, but something is like different, a little bit different from the original. Let me see what they have here. Yeah, they say cube trays are not going to be there, promo cards are not going to be there, and everything else seems to be. Everything else seems to be the same. Oh
Yeah.
wait, yeah. Okay, maybe few. Oh no, the player boards are not so good. So the ones that you have are dual layered, probably.
Yes, it's sort of a dual layered feature. I guess the other ones are just sheets like in the original game.
Yeah.
The dual layer for the original Terraforming Mars didn't come until the 4th or 5th expansion, unless you bought some sort of aftermarket upgrade.
Yeah, you have these. So the thing as
I
well
will
is
say you do a lot less manipulation in this than you do of your player board than you do in regular Terraforming Mars. So I'm not sure if the dual layer is as important, but it's certainly a nice feature. I also like the cubes better in this one. They're plastic rather than kind of the old ones. Yeah,
they say,
the
or
old
something
ones
like
they were metal, but they kind of got faded. Well, I don't know if they were metal. They were something. There was some material.
it was
They
the
got
metal
kind of
coats on
faded.
them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it got kind of faded after time, and it was kind of difficult to see the colors in different light. Fortunately, they were different sizes, but these plastic ones are, I think, actually an improvement to the point that I might look into getting some for my regular Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, I like this. I've seen them in a few other games. These kind of gravy type. I don't know, like texturized plastic, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I like that. So yeah, as I said, I backed it as well, and I also got the 4-player mats. I don't know why. I was like, I looked at the game and I'm like, the player mats, something like that. You get.
Okay.
I don't know if they are like resin or something like that. I don't know.
No. I don't
Maybe
know. I mean, I guess I didn't get those.
it was
Maybe
an
I'll have to look
add-on.
into them. Okay.
Yeah, it was
I'll
an
have to
add-on.
look. I might have forgotten to add those on. I'll have to check when when I see pictures of them to see what they look like.
Yeah. I don't know. The fulfillment is going to take quite a few weeks.
Yeah,
I think
that company
around a
has
month.
really slow fulfillment. I know from my big box Terraforming Mars. I mean, I got mine a month and a half after other people started getting theirs, so they're very slow.
I might be the same. I might get it just a month later right now, but
Mhm.
that's fine. That's fine because the original the estimated timeline was, I think, September or something like that.
Mhm.
I was much later than they
Okay.
started fulfilling. So I looked at that. I was like, in July they wrote, or something in June they wrote that we're gonna start fulfilling soon. I'm like, what
Yeah.
already? I remember it's being in autumn.
Yeah,
So
I think the game must have been a lot farther along when they ran their Kickstarter, which I'm actually totally fine with. I don't necessarily need to wait 2 years to get something.
yeah, and I was also interested in the game because for me, I haven't played Race for the Galaxy, but I played Roll for the Galaxy. It kind of remind me of that, and I like card games, and I like the card game mechanism in Terraforming Mars, but the overall experience of Terraforming Mars wasn't like for me.
Hmm.
But this one felt like it's a more maybe not streamlined, but they went towards the card game that the Terraforming Mars should be. It should be more of a card game than anything else, it seems. And they made it into big box, but this one feels like this is the card game, and they don't lie
Yeah,
to you.
and that's definitely true. I mean, there is a board, obviously, but it's just for tracking. Um, I think you will probably. I mean, I don't know. I'll be curious to see if you enjoy it more than the original. The one thing that's nice is everything kind of happens simultaneously in this one, which really can speed up the game time.
True that as well.
And the cards look a lot better.
Yeah, that's one of the things why I gave this version of Terraforming Mars, though it seems to be a different version of Terraforming Mars, a different game. Why I still gave it a chance, not really liking Terraforming Mars that much. Oh, it was good, it was fine, but it's because the component quality. When I read about the component quality, it was good. I mean, like, wow, they had their own artwork. It just all looks good. Finally, why didn't they do that with the initial copy of that? That's because Stone Cold Games just took the version that Fricks Games had, and Fricks Games, they do not have good-looking games, and they just reprinted that and just, they kind of grab the gold really cheap, and they do nothing about that. They monopolized this game.
Well, and I'm glad that the original came out because I still really enjoy it. But I do wish, I wish that as part of that big box that they came out with, that there had been an update to some of the card quality and card art, which actually kind of went the other direction, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but hey, that's a different topic for a different time. That was that anyway. I enjoyed this one. I think lots of people will enjoy it, and I think it will appeal to people who would. Again, I think this will appeal more to people who want to play a Race for the Galaxy type game than to people who want to play a Terraforming Mars type game. But it really is a nice marriage of the two.
Yeah, because I like the theme here better, and I'm like, okay, I never played Race for the Galaxy, but maybe I might like it. So that's the version I would like to try. All right, so here we have recent play for you, and my recent play, I finally got Red Rising on the table. I had it for a long time. Quite a few months. Just when it came out, just basically the Champions Pledge, whatever the pre-order. They said they're gonna ship it like in whatever month, and I got it so much earlier. I was like, wow, it's already here. Like maybe I was lucky to be one of the first to get it here in Europe. So I have the enhanced edition, which I wouldn't say that first of all the production of this game. The enhanced edition has this. It doesn't show you here, but this is the retail version, I think. Yeah,
that's the retail one. You can tell by the cubes.
Yeah. So yeah, it is. Yeah. So I'm not gonna search for the enhanced edition cubes, but the enhanced edition cubes look like, if you know how Terraforming Mars cubes look like, it's basically almost the same technology. And the problem is based on the lighting that you have, you might have a more wider lighting or lighting or more yellowish lighting or anything like that. So it manipulates those cubes in a way that they the purple is basically red and the red is basically purple and the brown is almost like a blue, whatever. I don't know. It's just like,
yeah, there's 6 colors, right? The brown and the yellow look very similar. The blue and the green look almost identical, and the red and the purple look very close.
Yeah.
It's really problematic. Unless you're only playing 3 players.
Yeah. We played. I played 2 players.
Okay.
I almost got a chance to play with more players, but didn't. But that's fine. Anyway, I got this game with a thought that, all right, I played Fantasy Realms, that this game is based on, and I didn't really like Fantasy Realms, if you remember. It wasn't the game I was enamored with.
It made me sad.
Yeah, because
it's a game I'm enamored with.
Yeah, so the thing about Fantasy Realms, and I might like Fantasy Realms more now. I might. It was some time ago. My taste changed. Whatever.
It's like 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, I might just like it more right now. But the thing is, when I compare the two, first of all, Fantasy Realms was all about just exchanging the cards, and that's it. It was extremely easy, extremely streamlined, too streamlined for my taste. That was the thing that I didn't like. In this one, Red Rising, and some people do not like that at all. And I was pleasantly surprised. This is one of my surprises of the year, because going into it, thinking that it's Stonemaier games. I need to try it, but I might hate it. Like not like it at all. And I liked it. It's basically the same. You are playing the cards and grabbing the cards from the center, and you're manipulating the board, kind of trying to get the right cards into your hand so that card scores with that card. And if you have this card in your hand, it gives you 20 points. But if you have this card as well, it gives you 25 points. And that blue, whatever character card, it says that it doesn't want any of these cards, like any red or green cards in your hand. If you have, you get minus 20 points, something like that. You manipulate it in a way that every card corresponds in your hand, corresponds to every other card, kind of trying to find the perfect circle. And I heard some complaints that once you have this hand of cards, you don't have any motivation. And if you have it like a mid-game, in a mid-game, then you're like, what I'm going to do? I have nothing to do. Yes, you have. And that's where I think the criticism is not really objective, because first of all, you can always have something better or something different. You can go risking with like, okay, this card works with that card, but I'm going to throw that away because these two cards, they give me 20 points in total. I might get a combination that gives me 40 points in total, but I have to be risky. And I go for that. Or if you don't want to, do the usual main action thing, you can use the scout and just grab the card from the center pile, put it down somewhere, and get that action for free. And there are these different tracks, the spaceship track, but I don't know. Thematically, I do not know anything about the world. But you get the crystals. They give you points into the game. You can grab the first player, or not the first player token, but the sovereign token.
The sovereign token, yeah.
Yeah, the one. It gets you extra 10 points. So it's a game. Like in two-player game, we had a gamble. Like I had a card that worked with sovereign token, so I could get 10 points for that, plus points on the card for that token. Right. And we went back and forth. And the other player, he had the same. He had like everything working with the sovereign token, like several cards. I almost like it was like one turn away where if I could like ended it in one turn earlier, I could have kept the sovereign token, but he grabbed it on the last turn. It was exciting, Yeah. And everything else, like the different actions that you do. So basically the board is divided in these 4 piles, and every pile is like a planet: Jupiter, Mars, Venus, and the Institute.
It's not a planet. It's references to the book, but
something like that. So and you get these, and you get the you have the majority as well with the cubes in the Institute. You can grab the crystals, you can grab the sovereign token, you can go up on that track. So you have different extra manipulations where you can get points, and they also correspond to the cards. And some cards have end game kind of triggers as well. So, and there is a ton of cards. And yes, you can get unlucky. Yes. There is a random factor that the deck is so huge that you might never see a card that you have. That's the fun part, because with this one, you have to be more, like, you have to be smarter. You have to not strategize. You have to use tactics as well. Like, okay, I might not ever see the card that I need to correspond to that card. Should I throw it away? But if I ever find it, I will get 30 points. So these kinds of decisions, they are really cool. I like all of that manipulation and the risky business you do. Because if I throw this card away, and later on that other card comes up, and that other player grabs it, both of these cards gets 30 points. So should I hold on to it or not? And there are some cards that are like shield cards that you defend with, or like you can cancel some actions. It's not really a take that. I barely found out.
There's a couple of cards, but they're it's buried in a giant deck. So,
so it's, I don't know. I was pleasantly surprised.
Good. Yeah, I mean, so I have a lot of thoughts about this game. First of all, I enjoy it. I think I like Fantasy Realms better, and the reason for that is really very simple, and that is that although there are lots of combinations in this game, all of the cards kind of top out at about the same point value. Whereas Fantasy Realms has one or two cards that you can really shoot the moon on and get, 200 points or 0 points, depending on how you manipulate it. So, and I kind of enjoy the excitement of that, and I wish there were a few more, because I think every card averages between, if you get sort of max value, 30 and 40 points in Red Rising, when you add its base to its bonuses, and that's fine. But I wish that there were a few of those really exciting cards that you can, if you get this strange combination of events, you can just blow up and do really well or do really poorly. I enjoy that.
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel like if you have this kind of a point swing in these cards, because they give you points by themselves, they have this kind of abilities where when you put it down, you activate that ability, the deployment ability. I think that a lot of these extra actions that you have compared to Fantasy Realms, if there would be that point swing, then it would be so unbalanced, I think.
It might be, and I don't know. I just in Fantasy Realms, of course, the cards you play don't have an action, and that's the big difference. And there's no sort of tracks or majorities or anything else going on. It's simply playing a card and drawing a card and trying to construct the hand that you want. And so it's certainly a simpler game. I enjoy this one a lot. Thematically, I have read all 5 books. The theme is really very barely there. It's nice to see someone's artistic representation of the characters, and some of the interactions are based loosely on something that happens in one of the 5 books, but it is really a very pasted on theme. But hey, I like it. I probably will. Fantasy Realms has the advantage of being in a very small box, so I can take it with me. However, I have not yet found somebody who loves Fantasy Realms as much as I do. So there's that as well. Maybe this one might be a little bit more accessible. I don't know. I don't love the game ending. I at least in a 2-player game, it's kind of weird, right? Because the game ends. There's 3 sort of parameters. And when one person has all 3, or all 3 are satisfied by all the players, that ends the game. And in a 2-player game, that's
one person can only
exciting.
have 2. So basically, if one person can get to 2,
one person has 2. Yeah,
like
and
that.
so
yeah.
And so in a 2-player game, that's a weird experience, because it's going to be always one person having 2. You're never going to have one person have. I don't remember what it was, but there was something where it just wasn't a very exciting end game in a 2-player. And I've only played it with 2, so I don't know about more. But I don't know. I played it a few times. I just checked. It looks like 11, which is a lot. Not as many as some games, but I really enjoy it. I just wish that there were a little bit more of those exciting super cards. But hey, I didn't play test the game, so I can't comment on those.
Yeah. Anyway, you can see here, this is the, and with the right lighting, you can see the difference between all those cubes. But for example, look at the cubes on the right and on the left. So this would be a yellow and a brown.
There's a yellow and a gold or something. It's very.
Look at them, basically the same. And
even the blue and the green are the worst.
Yeah. Right now,
in that lighting, they look good, but in anything other than really bright white, they're going to look very simple.
Yeah, except you get the gold foiled. The production is great. It's the art is great. I like the cars that are with that gold foil kind of attached to them. I don't know if there's one like these ones.
Those are those. I can't see if the foil is active or not, but those are the cards. So. Oh, there you got Darren Mustang.
See it. This is the gold foil, basically, shines through the artifacts things. Anyway, a ton of cards, and I like it. I was pleasantly surprised. Anyway, yeah, we talk so much about this game, but maybe it's it is worth the attention at least. And you should try it and see if you like it. So, for example, for me, Fantasy Realms was an inferior experience to this one. And for some people, and I heard a lot about that they like Fantasy Realms better. So,
Well, and you really kind of, if
matter
you've
of
played
taste.
both, it's hard not to compare them.
And you have to compare them because it's the Red
You
Rising
don't have to, but
is
it's
based on Fantasy
it's
Realms.
a natural comparison.
Yeah, right, in the rulebook as well. All right, so here we are. We ended the recent plays topic, and we get to next topic, which is Cult of the Old. Let's talk about some older
That's right.
games that came out a few years ago. Did we have like the threshold like at least 5 years ago, something like that?
I don't remember. I think we did say at least five. I don't.
Or we
I
like
don't know
let's
that we've
try
ever.
to have older
I don't
games.
know that we've ever pushed it.
Yeah, but I
So
try to bring the older games like that are at least 5 years ago, because if
yeah,
it's
I
like
do
two
too.
years, then yeah, it's not so old. Anyway,
Although with
Kyle.
that said, the game I'm trying to talk about, oh yeah, it came out in 2009. That's definitely old enough. This is a game that I played. I was recently on a trip to Dubai, and I had a friend that wanted to play some games, and so I brought a few. And one of the ones that he really liked, and it's one I haven't played for a while but really enjoyed, is Jaipur.
Okay.
Jaipur is it's a very simple game, but it's really quite enjoyable. What you're doing is you're trying to collect these tokens, and you collect the tokens when you play. If you play 3 green cards, you get 3 green tokens, and they go in descending value. My version doesn't even have a board, so it's just really a card game. And so on your turn, you're really just either playing cards to get the tokens or using some sort of one of two ways to get cards. You can just draw one, or you can exchange cards either from your hand or these camels that are a sort of a wildy card that sits in front of you and doesn't take space in your hand to get the cards. And that's really what you're doing. And you're trying to, if you play more cards at once, you're going to get bonus tokens. At the end, when the end of the round is triggered, you see who has the most points. Scores are usually in the 50 to 80 range. And then the winner of that gets 1 point. And it's sort of the best 2 out of 3. So
Yeah.
you'll play 2 or 3 times. I really enjoy this game. It's been around a long time, but it still feels very fresh. The one thing I don't enjoy is having to sort out all those tokens to set up the next round, but it's not that big a deal. But we played it in Dubai. We played it 5 or 6 times, in a row. So
Oh.
my friend really enjoyed it. Well, I didn't bring that many games with me, um, but no, it's really a good old game that is certainly worth attention.
Yeah. I played it in a board game camp a few years ago, quite a few years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
for the first time because there was 2 of us, and we're like, we should play something, and somebody just said, "Let's play Jaipur." I'm like, I don't know, I don't like the cover that much and the theme, and whatever.
Well,
Let's try. It's a board game camp, so I go out of my way and try things that I usually don't try. So I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, because it's a clever 2-player game about exchanging the cards, and I like the card play here. The tokens, it's fine. So yeah,
yeah.
an enjoyable one. There's nothing more to add to that. So I
Mm-hmm.
haven't played in years, so I can't really express what are my feelings towards the game right now. So, but you can definitely play it a few times in a row. It's engaging, and it's kind of a
That's pretty fast
inf-
too.
infectious kind of a play there. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right. And my pick for the Cult of the Old is a game that we talked about before, maybe a few episodes before. And this is a game about, it's a frustrating game because it's not about winning, it's about losing last. I'm talking about Panty Scheme.
Ah,
Like,
okay.
because based on the theme of this game, oh, that's weird. That's weird. This one is more right. Okay, based on the theme, if it's a game, you're all losers because you are doing this Ponzi scheme where you are getting investors in, and then you have to pay them dividends, but you're not really expanding any of the business. You're just getting the money with a kind of a, I'm gonna give you all the money back, and then you are not gonna give any money back because, or you kind of give money back by taking loans from other investors and then just paying that money to the first ones, and then you are in that never-ending circle of loans, and then your loans get bigger and bigger and bigger. You have to pay even more dividends and so on. So this is the game about that. It's kind of a frustrating theme and kind of a mechanic itself, because in this one you have to survive, and you always feel that struggle of, all right, next turn I have to pay, because you get those investor cards from the center of the table, and they give you a certain amount of money, but they give you a certain amount of turns in which you have to pay back, and you have to pay back even usually even more or something like that, like a lot. And you have this kind of a wheel here, and that's where you put the cards down. Like in 3 turns, I'm gonna have to pay these 2 cards, and so on and so on. You have to survive. You have to take loan very carefully and try to manage this thing. And you also get this kind of a corporation tiles, which give you extra things at the end of the game. I don't remember exactly, but you can also trade, kind of a trade. It's a tacked on trade that you like, all right, I'm going to give you money you cannot refuse. I'm going to take away a tile from you, kind of a thing. So, I don't know. It's a game to experience. I've actually
played this one. Yeah. I don't know if I've actually played this one. I was just looking to see if I have a record, and I don't think I have. I know I looked at it at one point, but it was weird enough that I don't think I was able to find anybody who wanted to play it with me.
Yeah. Because it is frustrating. It's different, and I think it's hard for me to explain the game. You have to try it.
Yeah.
The trading mechanism here, whatever, it just the whole experience of kind of you feel the pressure, and you must be the last one to go bankrupt. Everyone else goes bankrupt before you. You win the game, but after you win the game, you never feel like you. It's not like I got the most points, I built the biggest kingdom kind of a feel. You feel
it's
this
like
kind
I treaded water the longest.
yeah. I survived, but next turn it could be my last. So I kind of the feel after the game is different, and I think you should go with that. It's not an extremely appealing game, but I think quite a few people should definitely try it out at least. It teaches few things or something like that. It teaches you the no, not the economics, but
the value of participating in a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, the value of what is the real value of taking a loan? What is the value of going to that circle? Maybe that, I don't know. That
okay.
You shouldn't push yourself further and further and further. Just sometimes you have to do it on your own. So, all right, that's a frustrating Ponzi scheme.
There you go.
Let's go to the next topic, which is funky components. And here we talk about some outstanding or wacky or whatever weird components we find in games. And I'm just struggling a little bit to find cool components. Maybe I'm just not remembering few games that well.
That's what it is, right? I mean, as soon as you see it, you remember it, and then if you don't write it down, then you find yourself struggling.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, Kyle, why don't you start?
So mine, I mean, I don't know how exciting these components are, but they are definitely memorable. There's a couple of games that you play and people sort of talk about wanting to eat the components. And this is one of those games. And it's sort of also, I have kind of an irrational obsession with camels. And so I was in Dubai and wanted to ride one, and it made me think of it. And so the game is Through the Desert.
Yeah.
And it has these little, very nice pastel colored camels that really what you're doing in the game is kind of placing them around the board in a line, trying to rope off areas to get the most. And there you have the camels
Comparison.
in a bowl next to some actual candy. But, I mean, they're not amazing components or anything, but they're definitely very memorable, and they look so tasty. They're not. I did, at one point, lick one and washed it off before putting it back in the box. But see, look, most of the pictures that you're finding in this game, it looks like people are trying to eat the components. So the camels are not delicious, even if they look like they might be.
Yeah,
so
it looks cool.
Go. That's
yeah.
It is a very striking look for a very abstract game.
It's a good choice. I could have that's the thing. I've seen really great components, really wacky components in some games, but I haven't really played them. I've seen that, so if I could remember these games, because I can only remember the games, I look at my playlist, I'm like, okay. But yeah, that's a good choice. That could be my choice as well. All right, and for me, it is a fun component is from a very usual game, and you could say these are not so weird components or different components. They are just cool, and they're extremely thematic, in my opinion. I just love them, and they are from the ghost stories. And if I can find it, these are the Buddhas. Oh, here they are.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
So these are, I think they're colored, but let's see if I can find.
No, that's how they come. They come gold like that, at least.
No, this one has a shade in it, but basically, they're basically like that. Yeah, it has a little bit of that shade, but basically, in this game, these Buddhas are to save you from, here you can see, yeah, less shade here, yeah. So they are like protecting tokens or something like that. I haven't played it in a while, quite a few years. But how they look, I mean, everything else, the plastic, you can see the blurred out version of the plastic miniature of the monk. It's okay. These are whatever. But this
miniature is a little bit of a kind word.
But these ones have a lot of detail, a lot of shape, and this kind of a gold coat, and they stand out in this crowd of usual tokens. Really do. And they are very cool. They could be just toys or something you put on your shelf or anything like that. They look like that. So I do like them very much. And they are thematic. Golden Buddhas, they protect you. So that's my choice for.
They're definitely the most interesting component of that game. The dice aren't all that great. The player figures aren't all that great. The tokens aren't all that great. But those plastic Buddhas are quite nice.
Okay. Anyway, here we are. We have we've gone through all of our three usual topics, and then we get to our topic of the day. And the topic of the day is top 10 snakes and ladders. We talked about that in the beginning of the video.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just, for those who maybe just scroll down to that list, let's talk about it again. That it's not about the games that are like snakes and ladders variations, whatever brands. These are the games that we liked and like less, or that we didn't like that much and like more. So we each chose 5 games from each category. So games that have gone better and games that have gone worse. I don't know. I started mine with the games that gone worse. Kind of. I started with the negative side, and then I'm gonna go with the positive. Should we do that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I made essentially 2 lists of 5, so I'm fine doing it that way.
No, but I'm just because I have a numeration of 10. So so maybe we can go with that. So I think without further ado, let's just start and see what games have gone worse over the time.
Okay, sure.
All right.
All right. So my number 5 snake, or my number 10 on the list, is a game that I mean, when it came out, I thought this was the most amazing thing ever. A brand shiny new version came out. And when I finally got it to the table, I was really underwhelmed by the game. I don't know that there's all that much going on in it. The game is Cleopatra and the Society of Architects. It's a
Hmm.
game that I used to think the world of. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. It
Yeah,
had a great.
the new version or the old
I
one?
have the new version. I have the old version as well. But really, after playing it, I kind
Okay.
of really thought, it looks great. It's very simple, but there's just not a whole lot going on. It's really just sort of collecting cards and then playing the cards. And I don't know that there's all that much excitement in there beyond just those two very simple actions. So it really fell a little bit for me.
Yeah, yeah, I heard about that. I heard that the older version had kind of a the clever mechanism of some cards being face up, some cards being face down.
Yeah, and the
That
new
was
one
cool.
does too. Um,
Okay.
right, and that was sort of innovative at the time, but I don't know that it other than that sort of I can kind of see half of what I'm getting and can't see the other half. There's just really and the sort of corruption piece where if you took a lot of corruption, you would lose.
Yeah.
I mean that was interesting, but there've been other games that have just done it a lot better. And so I don't
Hmm.
know that I love this game as much as I used to. And so it has definitely it's my number 5 snake.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I haven't played that one. So, but I heard that the new version was even more streamlined. It shouldn't be. So they over
Yeah.
streamlined that. All right. So my number 10 is the game we talk about a lot. I talk about a lot. And I still do enjoy it. And with the last kind of a new iteration or new version of that, I started liking it a little bit more. But if we go with the initial cycle, the first cycle of that game, it's it went downside, and time stories.
Hmm.
It's my number 10 because I still do like it very much, but I still like quite a few cases here. But it became a nuisance to restart the runs each game and so on. So you have seen time stories a lot, but
Hmm.
basically the new version, the I played because I played only the Hadel project with that kind of a small expansion of the whatever the agency expansion coming to it like an RPG like thing. Like you can do between sessions, you do some kind of RPG style thing, which is cool. I like that. But if because I only played one scenario from the blue cycle, I'm not gonna include that one here because it brought the game back to me, like the faith in the game, kind of. But yeah, the first scenario was I mean, like, wow, it's 11 out of 10. Turn it to 11, kind of a thing. It's amazing. That was just so amazing. Nothing like that because it came 2015 and it was extremely innovative for me at least. A story game, an RPG game, kind of thing. But you just go through it. You enjoy the story. The second case, like about zombies, whatever. But there was a twist. Good, cool. I like that. The third case was set in the kind of a fantasy, medieval ages, whatever the something something, with magical things. Also cool. And as it went on, quite a few cases weren't that great, and quite a few cases where part of that was great and part of that was a nuisance, and so it went something like that. And it's hard to describe how much I like it right now.
Hmm.
But if I go back to that white cycle, as they call it, yeah, it went downhill. But not that much. That's because it's number 10. It wasn't such a huge drop. I still do
Yeah.
like it, but if I go like I rated it a 10, then right now, if I would just redo the rating, I would rate it a maybe 7.5 if I rate the whole white cycle experience.
Okay.
Yeah, quite a big drop. I mean, like, but still liking it. 7.5 is a good rating. So that's my number 10. All right, let's go to number 9. Okay.
Okay, my number 9, which is my number 4 Snake game, is a game that, when I played it the first couple of times, it might have been the IP, right? That might have been what was doing it for me, because I was really into the IP back at the time. But when I played it again a couple of years later, I just really didn't see any charm in it at all. The game is Discworld Ankh Morpork.
Okay.
Really, what you do in this game is you play a card and you do what it says. There's sort of, some kind of hidden roles and all that, but it really is very behind the scenes and almost like the hidden roles in Lords of Waterdeep, where it's just sort of some way to score something. There was one or two, I think, that had a different win condition, but really it was play a card, try to control an area. I really loved, I went real deep in the disc world back in the day, and I think that's why I loved the game so much. But if you sort of take the very pasted on theme off, you see that there's not a whole lot of game there, and it really fell hard off of my love list.
Yeah, not the one I've ever played, because at that time when I looked at the cover, and to be honest, that I don't know, just too dark, too kind of
Well,
a book type
it's
cover.
definitely that is definitely not a dark IP, but
Sorry,
that
but
kind of dark, like dark colors. Yeah.
yeah, like it didn't excite me that much. And the font, oh my, that's bad. It is like a book.
It shows its age a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was a long time ago. I just started playing games, and that time I was like, nope, not for me.
And
But
I
yeah,
don't know that. I mean, it was reprinted with a different theme recently, um, but I don't know that the game is why people will go back to it.
okay. All right. So my number 9 is a game that we played a version of that on the Dice Tower cruise. Just went through it in like 2 days, and I enjoyed my experience. And it was a different experience. Kind of a little bit, it elevated the game for me a little bit, but I'm judging the initial game. And when I played Betrayal at House on the Hill for the first time, it was in my early days of gaming. I was like, wow, I will play it again. It was amazing. I mean, like, wow, you explore stuff. It's like thematic, and it's like a haunted house kind of a thing. And somebody becomes a traitor and goes into that other room and then we discuss some things, and they discuss with the mirror. I don't know, and I don't know. At first it all felt like, oh, I'm gonna go to the second floor, the third floor. Uh, the components, they were terrible, but I didn't care because the whole experience was just so cool. You know, it was in my early days, and as I played more and more thematic games, and I went through, like I realized that this design has quite a few flaws when I played again, and it wasn't that exciting anymore. The exploring was okay because the rooms, they weren't that extremely great to begin with.
Right.
Like, you explore it a few times, and then yeah, you have a lot of cases. The trader could be this or that, but it's unbalanced as well. Quite a few cases are not like you can see that the trader will just win from the start when the hunt starts, whatever it is. Uh, and sometimes you see that the trader doesn't have a chance at all from the start as well. So, and sometimes the rules are a little bit wacky, and that the player who is a trader, because you never know who will be the trader. For example, with a few games where there's an overlord. For example, if I show you a game where I know the game very well, I could be an overlord because I know the mechanics well, and I can control that. And in that game, if we're playing a 5-player game and 3 of us haven't played it before and they become a trader, and then you kind of explain to them how they need to do that, but you can never look at the exact scenario or rule there. And
Right.
they have questions about that. It's like everybody needs to just know exactly what they're doing. And it's impossible in the beginning. You have to learn the game first. So it's still like we got the hunt because I think it was great because the trader was the one who played it quite a few times before, so they kind of knew how to approach that. So, and I think later games, it wasn't like that. So
Right.
it went downhill. It started crumbling. I started to see the errors of the game quite much. And
Yeah,
I think
it's,
quite a
it's
few
definitely
people
a
did.
fragile game.
Yeah, but Betrayal at the House on the Hill, the legacy version, elevated a little bit because it had this kind of a twists and turns that were really cool, and of course there were some imbalances in the game as well. So it was also something like that. Few games we played were good, few games weren't that good. But yeah,
Yeah,
and the trader was your brother all the time.
almost every time. I don't know how that
Yeah,
happened.
I was. I don't know.
But
And even if you remember, like kind of a spoilers, at some point there was like we had to accuse kind of each other at being a witch or something like that, and
uh-huh.
we like me and your brother were left. Two of the two were voted
Hmm.
out, and then we like, and everybody thought it's your brother, instantly. Like I don't know why.
Yeah,
It just
the
looks
the
like a
first
traitor.
game of Betrayal Legacy was definitely the best. But anyway, yeah, I certainly understand with this. I definitely consider this one for my list.
Yeah. Oops. All right. Let's get to number 8. All right. The number 8.
Okay, number 8, my number 3 snake, is a game that when it came out, I thought this was the greatest idea ever. The game actually, there are 3 different themes on this game. I'm going to pick sort of the oldest of the 3, but any of the 3, they're almost exactly the same game. The game is the first one is called Wallenstein. There's also a version called Shogun and a version called Immortals, but they're all really the same thing. It's sort of a very slow, plodding map kind of war game with the sort of novel idea that you had this cube tower that you threw the cubes into in order to see how the battles worked out. But as I've played it more, I've realized it's like playing a war game when you're it's like fighting a battle or with your hands kind of manacled to a huge ball and chain. There's just so many restrictions on how you can move and how you can get resources, and it feels just like restrictions the game when the most exciting part is using that cube tower and fighting, but that just ends up being a very small part of anybody's turn because there's just the way the action selection works, and the game ends up being very long and not all that much fun. I don't know that I've had nearly as much fun with repeated plays, even trying it with different themes, than I did
Yeah.
that first original time. So it has definitely fallen a lot for me.
Yeah. Not the area control guy here, so and was never interested in that one anyway. The looks of the game are not so good.
Well, it doesn't look amazing, and even even Immortals, which has the best artwork, doesn't look amazing.
Yeah. But all right. So your pick is Wallenstein, and my number 8 is a game that I talked about this one also quite a few episodes ago during my recent plays, and I told you that I played it again, and I was kind of not frustrated, but I don't know. I didn't like it that much anymore, and I remember that, so I was like, okay, that's gonna be on my list, and that's Scoville. Scoville
Mm-hmm.
is it's a clever game. It's it's a well stream like it's very well streamlined game, but the problem is that it's too streamlined, and the expansion that it has is just a small lab that you can grow peppers in, and that's basically the same but just your own. And you have the like the main board is where you all plant the peppers and then you go around them trying to kind of combine them. If you stand between the two peppers, you combine it into one other color, whatever the colors to go. They blend in, and this one is just get the peppers of different colors, put them down, and just walk around it with your dude here, and then fulfill the recipes, which is basically, now I have the peppers of that color, I'm going to give them away and get that recipe, which is 15 points. That's it. Anything else? No, it's just 15 points. And I can just brew get the pepper, which is a ghost pepper. I get extra 8 points. Wow, amazing. It's just too streamlined. It's just too obvious, in my opinion. I played it at first when I played it a long time ago. It was clever. It was interesting. But as the time went by, as I've now played, not as much as you. I'm like, I played only a few games, like over 700 games, different games. So still, that's not a low number, to be honest. And I have quite a few games to compare it with. Like, there are other very streamlined games, clever games, and are more interesting. This one just didn't have enough spice, no pun included.
I think that was intended.
Yeah. That's it. That's Scoville.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I haven't played it in a long time. I might have to try it again and see how I feel about it.
Yeah, just try it. But yeah, it's just, there are better games out there now. If they could only have the new expansion for that, like to spice it up. Let's get to number 7.
Let's. Okay. My number 2 snake is a game that I talk about a lot it was really the first one I thought of when we decided we were doing this list. But another one kind of fell more for me. But this is a game that, I thought it was so interesting when it came out. And I played it again. I mean, I played it a lot back then. And then when I played it again a couple of years later, I just found no joy at all for it. I found only frustration. Maybe it was component issues like the cards and the text size or symbols or what it was, but I just really ended up not liking it really at all. And that game is Elysium. This one really fell hard for me. I mean, like, really. To the point where I didn't have any joy with it when I pulled it out years after my initial several plays. So, I mean, I definitely, I think we talked about it in a game that needed a second edition. If there were some component improvements and maybe some more things to do, I might be willing to give it another chance. But as is, this is one that is done for me.
I can totally see that, and that could have been one of my picks as well. Let's say it's my number 11 or number 6 snake, because I can see that as well. We talked about that, and it dropped for me as well. Maybe not as much because I played it quite a few years ago, and I just maybe didn't think about that one right now because I played it recently. But I feel like if I play it right now, I could be the same frustrated as you about this game because such a clever mechanism with those, what are they called? The columns, and the set collection is just maybe too streamlined once they go down into Elysium. I feel like I would like to play it again and enjoy it again, but yeah, I'm afraid I'm gonna be frustrated. Yeah, Elysium. Yeah. All right, let's get to my number 7, which is another game that is near and dear to my heart, and I would play it again. I played it in one of the cruises for like in a long time. I was like, okay, let's try it out again, and I enjoyed my experience. But as the time went by, and especially when I got one other game called Nemesis into my collection, I realized that okay, so Nemesis can do it right. Nemesis can do it much better than this one. That's where it dropped even more, and then the Winter is the one. I think it dropped for quite a few people. I think this is the not unanimous, but I mean, like it's. I can hear people to talk about this game again. They say that not so good anymore. Like quite a few people do not enjoy it that much as before.
Mm.
When I first, it was one of my top 3 games. I was like, I love this game. It was great. It was different. The crossroad cards, though not triggering as much in quite a few games. I'm like, okay, I want them to trigger all the time. That's the story. That's the main thing. Do that. That's a minor frustration, but it grew. I like to go into those different locations and dig for the cards. I just love this mechanism. I don't know why. Because you could get something cool. It just felt good. And I felt like the zombies were a nuisance. They still were a threat, but it wasn't just a zombie game. It was a game about the like psychology between people, and you could have not just one survivor, but several survivors under your commands. But the main mechanism of everybody has their own secret objective. It was cool, but there's a traitor mechanism as well, and the problem with the traitor mechanism, it could just sink the game. It could just make the game not enjoyable, and sometimes even those secret objectives could make the game not enjoyable, because with some of these, if you have the main objectives going on there and you have your own secret objective, which are kind of basically the same, you either help yourself or help the colony. But if you help yourself, the colony will sink. So it's like, okay, I have no choice. That frustrates me. And when Nemesis came out, the Nemesis also has this kind of a secret objectives, but there's no traitor in Nemesis. Everybody has their own agenda as well, but it kind of feels like that. You are on your own, but you still work together. It feels so much better than in this one. So Dead of Winter was quite a drop for me. Okay. I rated it at 10. I do not change my ratings for the games that I haven't played for a while. But if I would change it right now, maybe it would be a 7 maybe now. So at least 3 points down. Right.
All right.
Let's go to number 6 or number 1, Snakes.
There we are. All right. My number 6 is a game that when it came out, I thought it was the most fantastic, amazing game that existed. This is really the game that opened Kickstarter for a lot of people. And for me, for sure, it wasn't my first Kickstarter, but I remember I was so excited when I got it. But the problem is the company has, some companies don't support their games. This company has over-supported the game, and it has become some sort of a bloated monstrosity or abomination and then it keeps getting rethemed, and yet still some of their rules issues that I had with version 1 that are still around in version 17, and that game is Zombicide.
Okay.
I mean, I really want to love this game even still. I think Green Horde is my favorite of the versions, but there's just still some issues in the game. First of all, you have to have 6 players. You really can't play with fewer, or else you're doubling up on characters and you lose your focus. There's lots of fiddly mechanisms about noise and putting tokens on the board and taking them off There's weirdness about needing a very specific item to deal with very specific enemies, and having a search deck that's that big and still being able to draw only one card per turn. There's, just lots of things that aren't fun in the game that still persist, who knows how many iterations later. And it's at the point, I always chip in and buy the new version hoping that it will finally be amazing. But I think if a new version comes out, I might not even look at it anymore, just because I'm kind of over this game at this point, which really makes me sad, especially because it's one of the games I've spent the most money on. And it just has really not lived up to what I originally thought it would be.
Yeah. When I first saw this game on Kickstarter as well, the Cool Made or Not product, one of the first of their big, huge games, I was like, oh, it's a very thrashy game with tons of rules, miniatures, whatever. I don't care about that. And eventually I was like kind of interested because I started watching Walking Dead. I was like, okay, I want to have this kind of a zombie game, but I never got to it. So I've never played this one. No comments here.
I don't know that you need to. I think there are a million. There are lots of other games that do the same thing,
yeah.
but do a lot better. A million might be an exaggeration, but there are. I keep hoping that some version of this will get it right, but they're all, everyone is just a little bit off, and the game is so bloated. You've got so much stuff in the game that you can't really experience everything, and the rule book isn't consolidated. You've got the dogs on this one little tiny sheet, and you've got the extra fast zombies on an extra little sheet. It's a mess. This game is a mess, and it makes me really sad.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So my number 6, or Snake's number 1, is a game that is near and dear to your heart. The game that you adore, but the game that frustrated me more and more as I went on with it. And we had quite a few expansions in the box. We like at first like it's amazing. We bought more. I don't know how many expansions we bought. Quite a few. We had tons of heroes and different villains, like a lot to play around with, But the frustration of upkeep and just the whole game process sometimes was a huge nuisance, and that's Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Those are all valid complaints about the game that I still love a lot.
Yeah, thank you. So, but that's where we had moments where like we showed this game to one of our best friends, and they weren't into games that much, but when we showed it to them, and at first it was a little bit of a drag, this one does minus damage, this one does plus damage, and they were a little bit frustrated. But as the game went on, we were like, basically everybody was injured, whatever, not dead, but you basically are injured. And then the last player was playing an angel, something like that. I don't remember exactly. One of the first
Fanatic.
heroes. Fanatic, yeah, thank you. And they had kind of combined the cards in a way that they like had a ton of damage. They've done a ton of damage to that villain, and we eventually won the game, and it was a big moment. I don't know, it just was so great. We're losing. It's so bad. The situation is bad, and the last man standing, and then boom, we get out of that situation. That was great. And as the time went by, the more we played, the more frustrated we got with this kind of the whole upkeep and different heroes. Some heroes not that exciting. Some heroes more exciting. Some villains too frustrating and kind of have these wacky rules or whatever. Not everything is great in this box. Not every villain, not every hero is great. Some of them are just not interesting to play. And that's where, as the time went by, it just went down the hill quite much. And eventually I just didn't enjoy the game anymore.
I certainly understand that. I mean, this is a game that if you were to play this game every single day, it would probably become your favorite game. But if you step away from this game for 20 minutes, it's such a beast of a game to do upkeep with. Now, and the company, unlike some who streamline, this company doubles down on weird, wacky rules and makes everything increasingly more complex because they kind of cater to the players who really like the game. It's the same thing with Spirit Island, right? Same company. And it's they sort of think, okay, look, this game isn't going to be for everybody, and we don't care.
They still have a fan base, yeah.
Yeah, and their fan base for this game is really very, very active and very, very devoted. So,
yeah, and anyway, to be honest, the rulebook was bad.
Yes, it was, and it has improved slightly.
This company's rulebooks are like, I read the Spirit Island rulebook. I was like, ew, no.
Yeah,
I don't understand how to play it.
It's not their, well, they wrote their that rulebook backwards is what happened. But anyway, look, I totally understand that this game is not going to be for everybody. And I can understand why, if you had a great experience at the beginning and then came back to it after any time at all had passed, that it would perhaps not be your favorite anymore. But this is one I would play every expansion if they kept. I mean, it's done, sort of, right? They're now re-releasing it, but the base box is done, and I'm glad with that. But if they came out with another 6 heroes and 5 villains, I'd take them.
Yeah. All right. So we can now get to the more positive side of our list, starting with now we can get with right numbers. Number 5. Now there won't be any kind of confusion with the numbers. It's going to be a number 5.
This is my number 5 ladder. This is a game, and I think the reason I put this one at number 5 is because it was really fixed by more stuff. The base game I still think is kind of mediocre, but more stuff for it made it so much better. It was one of my biggest.
That's the theme of the list. Kind of.
Well, on Zombicide, more stuff made it worse. But for this game, I mean, more stuff. When it came out last year, I was really actually very underwhelmed and disappointed by it. It was on my list of disappointments we did last year. But when the big sort of Kickstarter box finally arrived, which multiplied the content by 20, I played through it again and again and again and really started to like it. And that game is Marvel United.
Okay.
The base box has 3 villains and 6 heroes, and they all kind of feel the same. And so it was playing the same mediocre cooperative game over and over again. It wasn't all that much fun at all. But now, now that there's more stuff that's out there, different variants you can use, ways to make the game more difficult, ways to make the game easier, different villains that just play differently and do different things. And the heroes, you start to notice the differentiation a little bit more now that there are 42 instead of 6. I really enjoy the game now. It's a great little fast cooperative game that you can play with just about anybody, and there's just so much to explore and love. My only complaint now is that it's difficult to store.
Okay, yeah, not the one that I ever played, and I was enamored with the art. I'm not like chibi style art, not into that.
Yeah, really. I could take or leave that.
Superheroes is not the one. Like I like Marvel movies, They're fine. I'm not a huge fanboy, and so that's why I'm not a huge fanboy for this one as well. So,
Yeah. Well, it definitely climbed for me.
all right. So my number 5 is the game that I should have liked from the start, but maybe something went wrong. Maybe it was because it was a 4-player game. I played on the cruise. The production amazing, and kind of everything feels great. I don't know. It just didn't feel. It didn't feel right when I played for the first time. It's Wingspan. Also, the one that had been improved by at least one expansion. I haven't played the other one yet, but I think more cards and this kind of a blue cards with the end game kind of thing, they add to the overall experience, and that's good.
They
More
do.
cards is better. And so with this one, whoa, at first when I played it, I was like, okay, so you play a card, you put an egg here. Oh, you get this card, and so this one gives you a token, and this one gives you extra egg, and you tuck some cards underneath. What's going on here? Nothing new, nothing special. But as the time went by, and when I played it on the cruise, I was enamored. But then I think I either just realized that I need to just buy it because of it's like it was a few years ago when I was like, I need to get a game which is beautiful, and so with my girlfriend I was like, look at the games. What covers do you like? Maybe there is a cover or a theme that you like that you would like to play with me. And she was like, oh, look at this one. I'm like, oh yes, Wingspan. I played it a long time ago. It wasn't the best, but if you like it, let's just buy it and try it again. I'm like, it was okay. And then we bought it, and then I played it with her, and she loved it, and I loved it suddenly. Maybe that was a 2-player game. Maybe something else clicked with me. But the more I play Wingspan, and I think with this game it is like that, the more you play it, the more you can see the play, the beauty in this game. So Wingspan isn't the one that I hated at first, so it wasn't such a huge jump. It was okay, but I was like, why is everybody so enamored with the game? Why is everybody so screaming about the game everywhere? Like, Wingspan, best game ever. What?
You couldn't get it.
It's not. It's okay. It's fine. It's good, but no. But then I'm like, okay, I see that.
Well,
I see.
I went from loving it to loving it more, so it's not going to be on my list. I mean, I don't know that my opinion has changed other than that I like the expansions, but I still love the game, so.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to number 4.
Okay. Number 4 is a game that was not fixed by an expansion, although it did come out in a revised edition, although honestly not that much has changed. I think I just grew up a little bit as a gamer, maybe. Maybe it was too complicated the first time. Maybe it was the people I played with. But when I recently got the new version of this to the table, I loved it. And the first time I played it, I hated it. I mean, it was like a 3 for me. Wow. The game is Kanban. And
the new edition?
The new edition is the one that I have now. Honestly, not much changed other than that it's now about making electric cars instead of making regular ones. But the game mechanisms are largely the same. This game is just really fascinating. It is not an easy game to teach or to play. That is the new edition. To teach or to play. I mean, there's a lot of systems going on. There's a lot of sort of fiddly pieces that you have to manage. It is not going to be a game for everybody. But I think maybe some part of my brain opened up and I saw the light. And I found I had such a great time when I got this back to the table a couple of months ago, that it is a lot better than what it was back years ago. And maybe the component quality has just improved. The Stronghold edition was not amazing, and the new edition is much nicer. Maybe that's part of it, but something magic happened, and this game really climbed a lot for me.
Okay, yeah. I've never played this one, and it felt like a little bit too overwhelming. And at the time when I started playing, I'm like, okay, no, not the one I'm gonna play. But now, to be honest, I'm kind of interested. That's because I am interested in the theme of like manufacturing stuff and manufacturing cars. I think that's a cool theme. That's a different theme. That's not an everyday theme of trading in Mediterranean, you know?
Yeah. And one thing I will say, I mean, look, lots of these Euro games, the theme is not really very there. I think it really comes through on this one. I mean, the game doesn't feel, I think if you made it about something else, it would not feel as fun. But you kind of feel like you're making and testing cars, and all. I mean, look, it's abstracted, right? It's a game, but I think it really comes through nicely, and I just really I saw the light on this one.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 4, a leather game, is a game we talked about a lot, and I talked about it, like I talk about it a lot. And as I told you, it grew on me with each play. Maybe because at first its predecessor, the initial game, I loved it to the core, and when I kickstarted the newer kind of a version, it's a spiritual successor, let's say, but a newer version, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sell my old copy, like the predecessor, and just get the new one because they feel kind of the same. And that's the huge mistake that I made, because they are not the same. They are different. And I'm talking about Living Planet. And I'm comparing it to Archipelago because it's the same company, the same designer, and it has the same kind of a traits to it, the exploration, the thing. But Living Planet is its own beast. And when I played it at first, I was like, okay, I like the card mechanism. I like the building stuff, and there's the cataclysms. I need to be smart about that, and the dice manipulation, the dice turns, basically. I like that. But at first, I was like, okay, so I built something and it gets destroyed. I need to build it again or go somewhere else and explore. And sometimes I get unlucky and there's a lot of cataclysms. I need to get certain resources. The first game was a little bit frustrating. I was like, okay, so I paid money for that. I need to find fun. It's like that was kind of defense going on. Like
I have done that many times.
Yeah, like you get into this kind of a defensive position of like, I needed to, like, I was certain I'm gonna love this game. What's going on? I have to. There's something wrong, and that's good that they pushed beyond that, because with some games it just isn't my game. There's some games I could push it, but it's not gonna be better. With this one, we really got. I looked past my experience of Archipelago, which I loved, and realized that it's its own beast. It has the stock market manipulation, and I like buying and selling. And I like that it's in this kind of an environment and theme. And you can have the expansions, which are the Aquaria expansion, which is on the sea. It's frustrating and it's cool because, I mean, like, it's so harsh. It's going to beat you down. This game is going to beat you down with the Aquaria expansion. It's very harsh, but it's cool. That's the challenge, But if you play it for the first time, if you play the game with the Aquaria expansion right away, oh no, don't do that. It's going to frustrate you. You're never going to get back to this game. But it grew on me because you expand and you build and you get destroyed, but you have to build smart, and then you manipulate the dice. What others play, what you play, this kind of a role selection kind of a mechanism going on here. All the stock market, when or where you buy and sell. And if you're too late, the price goes down and you don't get enough money. It's all about the money eventually. So everybody's like thinking about the buildings too much. Like they build stuff and then they don't want to lose that. It's not about building. It's about I'm going to build this factory, mine as long as I can, get those resources, sell them. That's my points. My money is my points. So when you realize that, and when you realize how you can manipulate those dice in different ways and have this kind of a take that moments as well, but it's the take that moments that are kind of a predetermined, and you know they're coming, and you kind of know when you build there, you know that the dual player is gonna activate that at some point, and that's on you. You build there, so I like that. The more I play it, the more I like it, and I need to try out the other expansions as well. I haven't played the woods, whatever, the forest. I don't remember.
Yeah. I
Expansions
haven't played any of them.
are board
I've
game.
only played the base game.
Okay,
But
yeah. The expansions add quite much, and they are, but
Okay.
they are. It's something for the experienced players. Don't try them from the start. Okay, that's my number 4. Let's get to a 3.
All right. I apologize for the background noise. It sounds like someone is tearing down a house next to me. I'll speak quickly and put myself on mute. Um, my number 3 is a game that the first couple times I played it made me angry. I don't know why. I was irrationally frustrated by this game. But as I played it more, it did add some. I mean, some expansions were added, but even just the base game, playing it more and more, I've kind of gotten to a point where I really enjoy it. And it's a pretty easy game to teach. It's a pretty fun game to play. I don't love some of the card symbols. I wish that maybe some things were a little bit clearer. But there's text on most of the cards, so that's nice too. The game is Raiders of the North Sea. And it was one, I mean, now I really enjoy it. In fact, it's a game I'm almost always in the mood to play. I just remember the first few times just finding the game so incredibly frustrating. And maybe it was because I didn't see all the systems, but I just think it's a fantastic game now. So it's really climbed a lot for me.
Yeah, haven't played that one as well. Something I should definitely try out at some point.
It is improved by its 2 expansions. I think they're both great. But even the base game, I mean, I'm this one, unlike Marvel United, this one, on the strength of my experiences with the base game, has risen, and the expansions are just extra fun.
There were 2 Kickstarters going on. That was the Raiders with the 2 expansions, and there was the Champions of Midgard, the big box, basically. And I remember deciding between the 2. Either I get that one or I get the Champions Midgard. I'm like,
Right.
because I played Champions Midgard before, like I'm gonna go safe and just go with the Champions Midgard because maybe I like
Sure.
the theme a little bit more. The mechanism of the dice, and that's why I never
The
got.
theme's kind of the same.
Not the theme. I mean, like the I don't know, the feel. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, so my number 3 is a game where I learned what not the point salad, but what it is to have hundreds of points in one game and trying to get even more and more and more. And that
Wonder what
was
this could be.
First Class. First Class was my first such experience where I felt like, oh, I could get a ton of points, and how should I manipulate it the way that I get even more points and more points and more? Like, it's I'm not a guy who likes to have a game where there's a ton of points, because usually these games are old, ugly, and just not with a cool theme. Like usually tacked on some kind of a trading Mediterranean theme. First Class as well, a train theme. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna try it out. No huge expectation. But everybody's saying that. Like, I heard Sam Healy saying that it's a good game. I'm like, okay, so he liked that. Maybe I will like it as well. So I tried it out, and at first it was fine, but I liked it. But maybe I didn't understand it that much. Like, as soon as you get those combos going, as soon as you start realizing how you can manipulate all the different aspects of this game to build up your train really fast and get tons and tons of points, and how you shouldn't just concentrate on just one side. You have to concentrate on both sides and trying to make them work together. Like there's basically the train line. You build your wagons and two wagons, and then you build your kind of a rail line to the other side, and then how you build those up together in order to get the right bonuses that activate at the right time, so you can get the most out of your one turn. Each time. So the more you play, the more you see, the more points you get, and it just grew and grew and grew because you finally see the combos. So this is one of those examples.
Okay, I can see that. I love this game.
It's a good game. Let's get to number 2. All right.
Okay. My number 2 is, it was recently reprinted, and I decided to give it a try. I remember the time I played the old game, I was not a fan. I thought it was just really boring and kind of ploddy, and the game really didn't look all that great. The new version is still kind of ploddy and doesn't look all that great, but it's fantastic. And it's the same game. Nothing's really changed at all. It's just my tastes have changed, kind of like with Kanban. This game is Gingopolis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there you go. It doesn't look great. I'll just be straightforward on that. And the component quality is not fantastic, even in the new version. But it is such a fantastic game of making. This is an engine building game that's really just about that. You've only got really three action choices, and so you can really play with your own engine and with sort of some area control and with just making things that work together. It has some kind of garish colors going on there, but it is a fantastically fun game to play. Especially with 2 players. I love it with 2. And I don't know what I was thinking years ago when I hated this game, because I just love it now.
At first, when I saw this game, I was like, okay, it looks like too abstract for me. I wasn't so enamored with it. And eventually, as the years went by, I never played the game, and I've never tried it so far. But as the years went by, I was like, it looks so poppy. It looks so cool, colorful. I don't know. I just started liking the looks of the game. I don't know why. Something just clicked in me, and I'm like, okay. And of course, I played even more and more different Euro games and so on. I played Taluva, for example, as kind of a field, different tiles on top of each other, and this kind of a domes and whatever they are. So the cylinders. So this one, I feel like I need to play it. And at some point I wanted to get this one, but it was out of print. It was hard to get. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to skip it then. But now it's back in print, so I'm really interested in this one. I think I'm going to get it at some point, or at least try it out, because I'm now really interested.
It is kind of dry, but I think it's just so fun. And I think there's a whole lot to explore there.
Yeah. Okay, so my number 2 is a game that is beautiful. It's a brother, let's say, it's in the same line as the game that was my number 1 for a long time as well. I'm talking about Kemet here. Kemet, the first time I played it, I think I didn't understand it. I think it was one of those first games for me where it just... they attack you, you get killed, you don't really understand what you're doing. It's like you have to kind of reinvent your own play style, and go with that thought that nothing is like you can never just hold onto something forever. You constantly change, and things around you constantly change because you have to attack each other, and you have to attack. This is the game where I learned the kind of the brutal world of the war games, kind of It's not really. It's also a Euro game, and I enjoyed maybe the tiles, but there were so many, and I was lost in them. Kind of like, what do I buy? I don't know. So the first experience was a little bit too much, and the play style itself, the game itself, wasn't my style usually. So it was okay. I didn't like it, and then second time I played it, I played it with the expansion first of all, which is the initial expansion that you add to this game. It's just a ton. But the whole experience, maybe I was like, I've already played Blood Rage, etc. Maybe the whole experience of playing a few other games in that kind of a genre type made me realize that it's not so bad. And I kind of, it clicked with me the second time. I was like, wow, this game is amazing. So this was a huge jump for me from
Good.
not liking it to wow, I can see wow, oh this style. I could see like oh this style is so great. It could work for me, you know. And the first time I was like, so this style does. Why should I have it? I know monsters, yeah, cool miniatures. Let's do that. You know, I'm just gonna get the monster because it's a cool miniature. Now I'm like, oh no, this monster is useless for me for my strategy. You know, like I could see, you know, it's like the from the different films, like the Lucy film, for example, where she got this kind of a drug in her, and then she like could see things beyond the universe and stuff. It's the one who
Right.
plays Black Widow as well. Scarlett
Okay.
Johansson. She played in the movie called Lucy.
Okay.
Watch it; it's really cool.
Oh, I might have to. I don't know that it has anything to do with Kemet other than your experience,
No,
but
it's just just I remember that it's the same. Like
okay.
suddenly something pops in your mind, opens up, and you know you
Sure.
feel like, oh, I can now see through this game.
All right.
And let's get to our final number one. All right, your number one.
Okay. My number one was a game that the first time I played it, I didn't like it at all. I don't know why, because now I love it. Now it's one of my favorite games. If I did my top 100 list, it would certainly be on there. A new expansion and big boxes coming out, hopefully with some slightly nicer components. I don't know why. In fact, people asked me what I thought about it, and I said, "Oh, avoid." And I've had to go back to those people and recant because this game is fantastic. The game is Australia.
Okay.
Look, it doesn't. It's not a looker. I will admit that it kind
I
of
like how it
looks.
looks. Like
Okay.
kinda, not every component, but I
I
like
mean,
how
the
the
cards
cards
look
look.
okay. The cards look fine. The board, though, and the pieces kind of look a little drab. Uh, and you know,
It's not
it's
bad.
the little cardboard train tracks or whatever, but the gameplay is just so fun. It's just this nice mechanism of, you know, you've got that time track, but it really works well because especially after a certain number of rounds, the monsters start activating, and so you've really got to be concerned with how you're taking your actions. And the more times you take an action, the more it costs you. So you've got to occasionally spend some time to rest and clear things off. Otherwise, you'll bankrupt yourself. The rules are pretty simple. What you're doing is very obvious. The combat system's kind of fun, right? You know, you kind of have a certain number of units that you're playing with, and then you flip a card and it says, okay, you're fighting this monster. These units do damage. These units take damage. Very simple, very easy to figure out, and very easy to remember if you come back after a year or so. It works well solo. It works well cooperative, two-player. It works well competitive. It is just a fantastic game. I do not know what was wrong with me a couple of years ago when I said that it was terrible, because it is not. I repent. I recant. This game is fantastic. It has definitely climbed for me.
Yeah, not the one that I ever played. So there are quite a few games that I've played. Yeah, that you have played, but this one is the one that at first when I saw this game as well, I was like, okay, I think I don't care, but the more Martin Wallace games I played, the more I started to see that his design has some uniqueness to it, and I was like, okay, maybe I should try Australia and see, because train games, okay, I'm maybe fine with that, but the
It's not really a
whole,
train game.
yeah, but it has this kind of vibe to it, you know. But the whole theme, I might enjoy it. I know, I just calls to me. The Cthulhu calls to me, and I just need to try it.
He is famous for that. Uh,
Relief. All right. So my number one is an obvious pick, and it's not like I didn't like the game at first. I, I don't. I went through all of my games I've played, and I don't think I found a game which I hated at first, or like, and then I loved it. Like Kemet is the closest, maybe, which I like. I didn't really like it, and then, but it was okay, you know, somewhere in the mid, and then it was amazing. This one I liked it, but the last expansion, or I don't know if it's the last, but the last big expansion made it so amazing that I was like, okay, there's no other game like that, and that's Scythe. I feel like I liked Scythe. I backed it on Kickstarter and it was cool, but it was also different. It was hard to kind of understand the whole beauty of the game. I like how you manipulate your own board. You have to choose the different actions and then you upgrade and stuff. But it was like, okay, upgrade that stuff. I put this token here, and then this is the game where you need to learn the game as well. Like you have to play different factions to see the beauty of the game. If you play just one faction, like okay, that's fine. But eventually came the second expansion with the extra factions, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know, and it kind of my excitement for the game went down for a moment, and I was like, okay, I'm not so enamored with Scythe anymore. And then the expansion that got in Gen Con, I think, yeah, the Rides of Fenris, the campaign expansion. We started playing through the campaign, and as we went scenario with like went on with each scenario, I was like, wow, this is great addition. This should have been in the game. This is like something I will not play without, and this is not something I'll play without, and that, and then that, and it gives you a lot of variety, variants, and different modules. You can customize the game as you want it to be. Like you can make it cooperative as well if you like to. Some players might like it, you know, or the Mad Tesla. You might like it. That's fine. And that's where I feel like this is just an amazing expansion. This expansion makes the game lovable for everyone. But I know some people hate the game as well. It's like, but you know, for those who like the game, in this expansion they can find everything the game needs in modules, and then something they like less, don't put it in, and then something you like more, put it in. You know, customize the game how you want. And so this was the biggest rise. So, and as you know, it has risen from my like maybe top 12, and then eventually it went into my top 10. But if I would have done the top 10 without this expansion again, it would be in my top 20 maybe. This one made it to my number one. This expansion is just amazing. That's where it's a game changer.
All right.
So, yeah.
Well, I certainly enjoy it, and it's risen a lot. I mean, I liked it to begin with, and it's just kind of gone up for me the more I've played it. But
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. And that's it for today's episode and today's topic. So maybe you can tell if anybody watches this at all. They can tell us in the comments. Do you agree with the picks, and what would be your choice of a snake and a ladder? Like, what's the game that went worse, and then what's the game that became a better version of itself? Maybe through, and like maybe it's because of the expansion, maybe it's because just the better components or whatever, the new version, the deluxe version, or just the time went by and you 5 years later you started enjoying train games, you know, something like that, you know. So yeah, thank you for
All
watching.
right. That was fun.
That was fun. That's something, a little bit of negative stuff, a little bit of positive stuff, a little bit of picking on your favorite games. So why not? Sentinels and
Always fun.
Wanderers. Yeah. Sorry about that. I just had to. Okay. See you in the next video.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.